Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Basketball Card Strategy Show. This is episode 3, and I am here with Gary from Hoops and Cards. He's going to be my co-host for today, and because of that, we are also welcoming you to Hoops and Cards. This is a simulcast brought to you by hoopsandcards.com and nooffseason.com. Gary, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Paul, man. It's great to see you again and looking forward to talking about NBA hoops and cards. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. I'm super excited to talk to you because I think that we share some concepts, but we also think about different things consistently. So it's always fun to talk to you and kind of give the audience some of your perspective. And I like to dig in deep on basketball cards because so this show gives me the opportunity to do that, the Basketball Card Strategy Show. As you know, we have the Sports Card Strategy Show, and everyone listening on the Sports Card Strategy Show feed, you are all also subscribed to all of the niche shows here on the nooffseason.com Sports Card Content Network. But I really like this show because it gives me an opportunity to dig deep into basketball card collecting and investing, which I know that's what you're focused on over at Hoops and Cards. So one more time, welcome to the Hoops and Cards listeners. Great to have you, and welcome to the Sports Card Strategy Show listeners. Great to have you as well. So, Gary, today we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, and I want to throw out a couple themes that'll kind of will probably weave their way into the show. One of them is like timing. You know, you and I have both talked about timing a lot, when to buy. You did a 5 buys episode on Hoops and Cards recently, and I enjoyed it because number 3 was something like buy something else, which I thought was awesome. Yeah, that was cool. And then you had a couple, just a couple other little points in there about when to buy, when not to buy, that I thought was awesome. And so timing is huge. And I want to make a point about, something that I think is pretty important when looking at timing, because we're in May right now. We're if you might be listening in June, if you're listening a week after this comes out, but this is coming out in late May. So and then this concept that I'd like to get your take on too, and I think that this will really be something that is sort of a fiber of today's episode, and that is this investing concept that Kendall McKee, my co-host for the Sports Card Strategy Show, and I have we've talked a lot about, and it's really starting to materialize within our premium product at nooffseason.com. So if you check out nooffseason.com and you join the premium product, you can save 20% by using the promo code nooffseason, all lowercase. But we're updating each player profile to sort of reflect one of 3 levels that player represents within a sports card investment portfolio. One would be a flyer, which, one thing I love about you and I is we talk about a lot of guys that are flyers. We're digging deep. Bargains, the next level up from that is we call a hero. And then so that's kind of the middle guy, more well-known guy. And then the third level is a GOAT, the GOAT. And I think we all want GOATs in our portfolio, right? But we all don't want to necessarily pay the premium price to get GOATs. Mm-hmm. So the idea, right, is to find the next flyer that's gonna soon be a hero within the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe they're gonna be a GOAT, but it's the odds of finding a flyer that ends up being a GOAT are like almost impossible. It's not gonna happen. But you have the level of sports card investor or maybe more of a flipper that is really what they're trying to do is they're trying to find flyers that are going to be heroes. The Tyrese Maxeys, the Desmond Bains, some of the guys that you and I have talked a lot about. The Darius Garlands, love it.
I got my D Garland bobblehead for you, buddy. Yeah.
Welcome. He's loving this part. To those of you listening, Gary has an amazingly looking, accurately looking Darius Garland bobblehead. He's
in his texting right somebody hand? Right now. He's on his phone. He's probably on eBay checking comp.
That's amazing. Hopefully he's subscribing to the Basketball Card Strategy Show. That's what we need him to do. Come on, Darius. I love the Hoops and Cards hoodie, by the way. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got this other level of guys that are trying to that are buying heroes thinking that they might be GOATs or thinking that their value might be going up. And then you've got this third level, like the elite investors that are just buying goats, right?
Only goats.
And
yeah.
okay, some of our listeners might be buying goats. We'd like to hear from you what you do most. But basically, Kendall and I what we think is that you should have a diversification of those levels. You should have a certain amount of flyers, a certain amount of heroes, and a certain amount of goats. And so we could get into all that in today's show, but what we will get into is sort of timing the market and those levels of guys that you can add to your portfolio. So we'll probably talk about a lot of flyers in today's show and some heroes. But anyway, let's start with timing the market, because I think that there's some releases that will be coming out as you are listening to this or watching this, and then possibly within the next few weeks. And even if you honestly, even if you listen to this episode several months after it airs, I think it's going to be relevant, because there's always going to be a new release. There's always going to be a new release. And I want to talk more about the concept of of that more today than the actual new releases. So you talked about Prizm on Hoops and Cards, and then there's also Impeccable, right? So if you're listening to this right away or watching this right away, you know that Impeccable's out or coming out, and you know that Prizm's coming out right after the NBA draft, I think. So before I start to make my points, Gary, why don't you get in here and tell me where your head's at related to these topics, and specifically, you know, these new releases that are coming out with. Talk to me about Prizm, and talk to me anything about Impeccable that you want to share with the audience.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Absolutely right on the concept of timing, because if I don't have a strategy, the timing is I'll buy it when I want it, or sometimes I'll buy it when I see it, and it's like an impulse thing. I'll buy the new thing. I'll buy the hot thing, and there's emotions tied to collecting and following, you know, anything regarding sports. So timing is so important. And you know, there's the big picture of timing where, like, hey, cards will be more affordable, or you get better deals in the off season. I know there's no off season, Paul, when it comes to investing, but like the NBA off season, right? August, September, you're going to find some great deals that'll be 20, 30, 40% less than they are now on goats, like on some of the best cards. So if you can look thoughtfully at your collection, at your investments, and say, I don't need to buy just when I want something, or when I'm drawn to something, right? I want to buy when it's the best time, because my cards, my investments, they're going to last beyond next week and next month and next season. So thinking about what's the best time of year, the time when that gets tested, you're absolutely right, is when a new release comes out, when there's the excitement of, hey, this new Impeccable release has tons of great autos. It's a premium product. You know, there's a lot of, all the cards are numbered. It looks like there's some great looking cards that you'll see and you'll be like, I got to have that. And maybe you do, like if that's where you roll, or if you have that kind of money to just buy on impulse a lot, that's your thing. But the same thing's going to happen with Prizm as the most popular, you know, the best reselling, the most in demand product. We've been waiting 6 extra months this season for it to come out, you know. And how many times have you heard people say, I'm just waiting for the Prizm, Cade Cunningham. I'm waiting for the Prizm, Evan Mobley. And I'm one of those people, by the way. There's a part of me that's like, man, as soon as that drops, June 22nd or 25th or whatever it is, like, I'll see those listings on eBay and I'm going to want those cards. And yet, one of the things, in fact, we did a Basketball Cards 101 episode at Hoops and Cards about, like, planning for a new release. Like, how do I think strategically about this? Because it feels like the first days, the first week that a new release hobby box is out, people rip and they list stuff on eBay, and they list it at auction, and you can see the first rookie cards of those players will go for several $100s more than they will next week and the week after that. Like, it's just crazy. It happened this season with even some of the cheaper earliest releases. I think that's why Panini is smart and they release Hoops early on, It's the cheap product, but it's like the first release and then the first to go to retail with Cade, Evan, Scotty, and Jalen and all those rookies we want. So people overpay and they buy stuff that 3 months later they're like, it's just hoops, right? Or it's just Don West base, or it's just, well, that same thing is going to happen with Prizm. It's going to happen after June, after July, after August, if you can be patient. And it's not easy, Paul. Like I haven't mastered my emotions. Like I'll probably still be looking for some deals on eBay that first week because I want that. I'm a Cavs guy, right? I want that. I'm still waiting on my Evan Mobley bobblehead from the Cavaliers. I want that Evan Mobley silver Prizm rookie, So I think you're absolutely right. Timing is key. The new releases, like it's good to learn about them in advance and then set a strategy in advance for what you're going to do. Like you can go to places like cardboardconnection.com and see the set checklist and see all the inserts and see what the inserts are numbered to and which ones have autos. And there's some of these, like before this episode did a little more research about Impeccable because I'm not as familiar with it as far as what they're going to offer this year. Like there's some Magic Johnson autographs that are like limited number that I thought you would love, right? Michigan State guy. Sure. But there's also some question marks, like their regular base set of rookies this season, or just of player cards this season. Like they have RJ Hampton in their set. They don't have Desmond Bane. Like that's a problem. I looked at other teams. They have 3 or 4 decent players, but they missed on a few guys that like took a step up this season. So it's an exciting looking set, like especially if you like a premium product with jersey patches and autos, right? And a lot of their rookies look good. I checked, they did have their Cameron Thomas in all of their auto, inserts. They did have their Bones Highland, so I felt good about it. But no, absolutely right. Timing, have a strategy, and if you can be patient, I think that's a better investing play, right? To think about maybe use that first month when a new release comes out to just observe, unless you're chasing the one of one, right?
Yeah, I agree, and it's a tricky one. And we've got Impeccable. It looks like Court Kings just came out. So we've got Impeccable. We've got Noir comes out in the next week. So there's a lot of these new releases, and the tricky part to me is we need people who are buying them right away. The market, that's good for the market. So it's hard for me to get up here and say, wait, don't buy these, because we do need people to buy them. I think that, so we need the collectors. I think if I were to hypothesize, it'd be two profiles of buyers right away. It would be the collectors who's going to buy and hold this stuff and just does not care how much it costs. Yeah. Or it's the quick flipper. It's the people who know I'm going to get this and I'm going to immediately list it and I'm going to buy. And what they're probably doing is buying as many boxes as they can. And then that gives them better odds of actually getting something that's going to help them profit off of their quick flip. And I think that's great. I think that that's great that there are those two profiles of sports card collectors, investors, flippers. But I think that our audience, I know in the Sports Card Strategy Show, and I know from listening to Hoops and Cards, it feels to me like our audience, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, guys, or email me at paul@nooffseason.com and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me who you are. Maybe you're a little bit of both, and that's cool. But I think that who we all are is more of, we want to profit off of the purchases that we make, and we either want to, it doesn't really matter what we use that profit for. We're going to use, some of us are going to use it for different things, but we want to profit off of just about every single purchase we make. That's who we are. And so I think that that's where I'm going to head into now, with regardless of whatever it's good that there's always a new release, and it's good that there's always hype around the release and people that want to buy it. And thank God for the collectors. The true collectors are the ones that really end up driving the market for people like us investors that, give us the opportunity to actually profit off of this, because we do need somebody who at the end of the day wants to pay the amount of money to hold the card. And so that's good. But let's get into where my mind goes when I hear people talk about what a strategy should be coming up to a new release, because I made the same mistake over and over and over again in 2020 and 2021, where I just kept getting excited about every single new release and I just kept buying it. And even into 2022 a little bit. And now finally, like halfway into 2022, I feel like I have a strategy that I can follow. So let's deep dive into this for basketball, because I think that this happens in every sport, but we're going to deep dive into it for basketball. So what I did was just a little analysis of some first round picks in the last 3 years. So 2021, 2020, and 2019. And to me, they all kind of fit the same profile a little bit. And I even have one guy from 2018 that we haven't really talked about since you and I have started talking basketball cards. But, and this will, maybe lead us into a little bit of banter around my updated basketball card rankings at nooffseason.com. Because as I have added, and some of them I've added based on you kind of saying, hey, Paul, I noticed you don't have this guy on there. And I'm like, oh yeah, Gary's really deep into basketball cards, and I need to dig a little bit deeper into what plays can be made with some guys, because I have some rationale around why I don't have guys on there. But you've sort of challenged me to be like, maybe there's an opportunity with some of these guys, right? And so just real quick, the point of 2021 is that the 2021 rookies that I'm going to kind of walk you through, in my mind, are either still overpriced based on what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare contenders rookie ticket autos. Now, of course, there's many variations of contenders rookie ticket autos, because you've got you've got shimmers, super short prints, you've got serial numbered, different levels of serial numbered, and then you've got photo variations. So it's hard to do like an apples to apples comparison. But in general, what I found is that the 2021 rookie class, guys like Jalen Suggs, who is the 5th overall pick, you would expect him to have a higher sales totals than other guys because he was a top 5 overall pick, but he didn't play that much, and he's on a pretty bad team who just got the number 1 pick in this year's draft. So Jalen Suggs, and then I looked at guys like even lesser known guys like Joshua Primo, who was a lottery pick last year for San Antonio. And I looked at guys like James Bouknight, who kind of is the same profile as Joshua Primo, smaller guard that can score, lottery pick last year. And then I even went deeper than that. I looked at guys like Herb Jones, who was a 2nd round pick and had an amazing rookie season in New Orleans, helping them to a playoff run. And Ayo Dosunmu, who was a 2nd round pick, really stood out for the Bulls. And then somebody commented on one of my YouTube videos about what about Davion Mitchell, and I thought that was a good call too, because Davion Mitchell, I like Davion Mitchell a lot as a player, and my what about so I have reasons for why all these guys aren't ranked higher in my basketball card rankings. Now I did put all of them in the top 75, which I just updated before this episode. So they're all in the top 75, but I've got reasons as to why I'm not like always talking about these guys, or why I don't have them in the top 50 at nooffseason.com. Anyway, but I won't get into those reasons, because what the point really is that we're still only 2 or 3 months after the contenders release of this product. Yeah. And the prices on this product are still significantly higher than if we were to go back. So what I heard you say, let's just go back 1 year. What I heard you say is you bought an Emmanuel Quickley rookie ticket auto for $10. And I thought that was amazing, because that is a perfect example of what everyone should do or look at doing when this year's Prizm comes out, or whenever the next release comes out. What you should do is you should take the same profile of player and go back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and see who was drafted in the areas of 10 to 20 overall, where I could buy this year's single at $300 and we know less about this year's guy, or I could go back 1, 2, 3 years and get a larger sample size of a guy, and because it's not a new release, it's an old release, still get basically the same card. You want to do things like check the pop count. You want to do things like, is this player, does he project to be in a situation where he's going to get more minutes or be on a winning team? Still do all those things, but just in general, like Emmanuel Quickly's prices much lower than or equal to guys like like Herb Jones is like 2 or 3 times more expensive than Emmanuel Quickly. And so, I mean, I get that there could be a reason for that, but I think that what the reason for that is it's recency bias. We're just coming off of a playoff run with New Orleans, and Herb Jones's product just released. And Emmanuel Quickly's still potentially in a better market. He's still potentially a better long-term player. So I just think that's a smarter move. And then you get into guys like Cole Anthony. Don't love him as much because he's in Orlando competing against Jalen Suggs, but he's a better player. He's a better overall player. So he still has upside. And then even Malachi Flynn, he's dirt cheap, $5, $6. He's in that, Emmanuel Quickly type zone where, the Raptors are good. How long is Fred VanVleet going to be the guy? Malachi Flynn's a first round pick. So these are obviously flyers, total flyers. I'm not saying go out and buy 100 Malachi Flynns at $6 a piece, because you could go out and get a nice two nice Evan Mobleys for that, or a nice Cade Cunningham for that. But I'm saying, like, as you look to add flyers to your portfolio, does it make more sense to get Malachi Flynn, Emmanuel Quickly, Cole Anthony now, or does it make more sense to go Jalen Suggs, Herb Jones, and even Ayo Dosunmu is way more expensive than some of these guys. So then if we go back 2 years, guys that I like, DeAndre Hunter 2 years ago, it's actually 3 years ago, but 2 years ago in terms of releases, his rookie ticket autos are cheaper than even guys like Cole Anthony. So if you look at, I mean, who do you like better, right? But winning team projects to be the number 2. But real quick, I'll pause because I do want to go back to timing real quick. So we're talking about new releases. We're talking about strategy for new releases. Go back in old years, look at some other guys. And then we're talking about timing the market. I would caution everybody to wait until after the NBA draft to buy any, like, I think it's like, you get it quickly for $10. That's probably,
and that was
probably an
poor best offer. So I made a low offer and he's accepted. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Amazing strategy, by the way. Love the low offer. Why not? Throw it out there. You can always negotiate. And it's probably an exception to what I'm about to say. So you should be preparing now. You should be lining up these potential purchases over the next month, but don't make them until after the NBA draft. Why? Because what I say about Malachi Flynn could blow up in my face on draft day. What I'm saying about Malachi Flynn to you all now, that he's the backup in Toronto, backup point guard in Toronto and all of that, like, that could totally change. We need to see how the rosters shake out. There's going to be trades. There's going to be there's obviously going to be teams drafting that, that's why I don't like Jose Alvarado right now. That's why I don't even really that's why I kind of don't like buying anyone right now, because you don't know who the Pelicans are going to draft. You don't know who any of these teams are going to draft. And so I think that I would wait until after the NBA draft, but I would take all this information now, be ready to snipe some stuff at the end of June, July, August. Be careful for weird summer league spikes, because those are anomalies too. I would avoid those. We'll talk more about that later, Gary, but those are my main thoughts for today on, what to do when there's a new release, and then just sort of how to further buy at the best time. What do you think?
I like your looking back at the last few years. Like, imagine if if a year ago we had this conversation when everybody's buying LaMelo and Anthony Edwards, great players, but if we had looked back a couple of years and said, what about Jordan Poole? What about Darius Garland? What about the deals on, you know, young guys, first round picks, like you said, who are getting playing time on a playoff contender, Tyrese Maxey, right? What if we had a year ago had this conversation and planned ahead? And I like what you're saying too. Like, it's good to do your research, but realize a lot of this is luck, right? Next season, for all I know, Emmanuel Quickley could be Jalen Brunson's backup because the Knicks break the bank to get Jalen Brunson in there. Well, I'll be glad because I bought Brunson too. But like with Quickley, or they could say, look, he showed us enough in March and April that he's our guy moving forward. And Quickley turns into, you know, next season, he's 19 points, 7 assists, 5 boards on a resurging Knicks team that isn't dependent on Julius Randle, you know, feeling like performing that night. Like Quickley could be a star next year. You know, I like the conversations we're having because a flyer, sometimes when we use that word, it can be like, well, what the heck? I'll take I'll buy, you know, a $20 card or a $10 card. But there's a difference between a flyer that I know what that player is capable of, or I've done a little bit of research on his situation, and I'm saying, hey, the Kings actually really believe in Davion Mitchell. And our conversation about him made me go back and do a double take on him because some of the things I've read and seen weren't crazy about him. Sacramento's not a playoff team. I like a couple other players more. But the more I looked at Davion Mitchell and his last 3 months and what he did once he got more than 22 minutes a night was fantastic. Like any other young guard, he needs to improve his field goal percentage, right? He needs to reduce his turnovers. But I also checked to see, like, was he only performing well against like Orlando and Houston and other teams that were tanking anyway? But no, he had some big games against the Miami Heat and against other playoff level teams that it was like, okay, you know, but you also have to ask the question, when I buy Davion Mitchell rookies that people do know about, and he's one of those guys that maybe could be a little high priced right now, am I missing out on De'Aaron Fox deals? You know, a guy who is the alpha in Sacramento, and his cards are dirt cheap now, and he may not stay in Sacramento forever. Like you're saying, look back 2 or 3 years, you might find a much better deal right now. It doesn't mean don't look at Davion or Quickley or, you know, all the current guys, Malachi Flynn. But it means, you know, another one that came to mind too as we're thinking about this, you have 2 guys in your top 25, Kyrie Irving and Cam Thomas, that I guarantee you in 4 months they won't both be in your top 25. One of them, right? Kyrie could force a trade, you know, or I just think Kyrie is a problem. Like I don't know what to.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And actually that. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I think you're right. And actually these rankings are constantly changing. I look at them every day and I iterate off of conversations like with you and with Kendall and with Greg and with other people that help me create.
But Paul,
content.
the value is you know Cameron Thomas, and you know he's a good investment whether he takes the starting job next year or it's 2 or 3 years. Like, you know, he's a young, great player who can score, and he's going to get his chance someday. I just don't know if it's going to be this year. I kind of hope it is, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know.
Same. And yeah, like, and so that's a perfect example. So they're both in my top 25. They could still both be in my top 25 several months from now because of what you said, because they might not be on the same team. They might not be because they might be on the same team and Cam Thomas might still be on the bench. But what I do think is going to happen is I think that there's probably a good chance that they won't be on the same team. And I do think that the reason why Cam Thomas is number 17 right now overall is because he is so cheap, and I plan on holding him for at least 3 years. So I went out and bought 4 or 5 of his rookie ticket autos, each for under $50. I think I'm going to have him graded at PSA because I'd like to be holding Cam Thomas rookie ticket auto PSA 9s or 10s 3 years from now, just be holding them. with $100 into each of them. And I think there'll be $200-300 cards at that point. So, you know, I could be wrong. That's only going to be 5% of my portfolio on, you know, within my probably 25% of my portfolio that's FLIERS, right? So, give or take a few. That's not an exact science for me yet, but trying to work it all out. So, and yes, there were also, so you made a point about a guy, like you actually DM'd me on Instagram about Precious Achiuwa. And so there's guys like him, and he's the 2020 draft class, so he kind of fits in with what I'm saying. But I did a little bit of research. So we've talked about contenders rookie ticket autos, and I want to go to Prizm Silvers and get your take on this, because what I've noticed is that Prizm Silvers sell very well. And I've also noticed some, but because serial numbered cards and autos have become so popular, I think there's actually an opportunity now with Prizm Silvers, especially if you can buy Prizm Silver PSA 10s at close to the floor price at the right time. I think there's a lot of money that can be made if you're okay sort of hoarding some Prizm Silver PSA 10s. And so I'm not saying that I'm doing this, but I am advising that this could be a pretty darn lucrative strategy. And I'm going to rattle off a few guys here that I believe, based on data and based on how I project them to perform moving forward, that I think that wait until after the 2022 NBA draft. And if they haven't been put in a worse situation one way or another, then I think that you can snipe some of these. So my near and dear to my heart, but also pretty objectively, like a guy that should start the season on fire, which would be an opportunity to sell him before the end of November. But a Miles Bridges 2018 Prizm Silver PSA 10 going for $120 to me seems like,
that's
seems like you should go do that, because, and again, I think his contract situation is up in the air, but he should get a pretty darn lucrative deal in Charlotte. Like, they should lock him up for the long term, close to a max extension this offseason if they haven't already. I haven't fully done my homework on that, but I did know that was coming up. So just wait until that shakes out. But I think if you can get a Miles Bridges 2018 Prizm Silver PSA 10 for less than $150, I will tell you that I sold a Miles Bridges Prizm Silver SGC 10 in November of 2021 for $350. So that should tell you where. Now, he was Player of the Month in November, I believe, in the Eastern Conference. But I think he can come close to doing that again. And Miles Bridges is a guy that I like.
Paul, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Because I had a timing issue just pop into my mind. I saw that deal for 120, and I wanted to walk away from our interview and go buy it right now, because that is a screaming good deal. But here's the question: is that a card that you could see being down another $20-30 in August and September? Buying season, is it going to get lower than that? Because that feels like a floor already. But
that's a good. I think, yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that all of the cards that I'm mentioning right now could get lower because of all the factors that we've been talking about. But I think the reason why it may not with Miles is because, and I'm looking this up on the fly right now, Miles has not yet signed a contract. He did not. He turned down the Hornets' offer of $60 million over 4 years last year that they offered him, and he bet on himself, and that went very well for him, because he averaged. He had his best pro season by a mile, and so now, now he's Charlotte has to sign him. You know, I think other teams can maybe sign him to an offer sheet. Charlotte gets the opportunity to match that. Charlotte, I think, has the opportunity to also pay him more than anyone else. That is probably the most likely scenario, in my opinion, although I don't have any inside knowledge or anything like that. So I think everyone needs to wait and see what happens. But my guess is that when he signs somewhere, that's going to be news and that's going to spike his card value. So that's why it may not go lower than 120. And like, to use your strategy, I mean, the buy nows are at 209. So I would make offers. Like on these have been listed. Okay. No, sorry. It looks like these end. So this one ends, for example, in like a month. So you can make an offer. I would make my offer at like
Sure.
120. I'd make my offer at like 115, 120. See if I can get that card.
That's a
But
good
yeah,
point.
I mean, if you want to leave right now and go do that, I can keep talking about those other guys.
Well, I like what you said about the make an offer, because I've been making offers with people as if it's already August. Like, I'm not going to offer you your asking price right now. I'm operating on, I'm spending with buying season in mind. But yeah, and people need to realize Miles Bridges isn't just a product of, hey, he's got LaMelo. He played awesome when LaMelo was out too. Like his game is not dependent on what LaMelo can do. It helps, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Bridges is going to be one of the more desirable players in the league for years to come, just because of he's got a well-rounded game. He can be a number one when the number one's out. He's a really good number two. Would be an amazing number three somewhere, and he's explosive enough as a dunker and shot blocker to be in the NBA top 10 plays on any given night, which we know is can be huge for card value. So he's like a Ja Morant, but in a small forward, like small forward body, like basically like a short power forward's body, but he's like a Ja athlete type. And so
he's so fun to watch.
And he can shoot the three. He can do it all. So another guy that I like, not nearly as much as Miles Bridges, I've talked about this guy a lot, and I don't want to forget the fact that I think it's easier to scout players for me and make those calls over the long haul and be right on them when I'm really confident. It's easier for me to do that than it is for me to like put all the pieces together to make money on sports cards. And so DeAndre Hunter was a guy that I was really high on last off season, and he just didn't quite get there this year. But I just don't want to forget about him, because I was wrong about him this year, but that doesn't mean that I'm wrong about him in the long term. And so his Prizm 2019 Prizm Silver, his rookie year, has gone for as low as $61 recently, but the more recent sales, $76, hovering right around that $70 to $80 mark for a PSA 10 Prizm Silver of his rookie. So I would wait on that too, because you don't know who Atlanta's going to draft. You don't know if they're going to make trades. They've got a lot of pieces. I would wait till after the NBA draft on that, but I like him too. Agree or disagree? Tyler Hero. I would not buy him now. I would definitely wait until more of what you call buying season, which I agree with, August, September on Tyler Hero. But I don't see any reason why his Prizm Silver PSA 10 rookie wouldn't sell very easily at the right time. And the margin might not be as high on Hero as it would be on a guy like Bridges, but I still think that in the long term, he's going to be a starter. You're going to have like Jimmy Butler's old. Kyle Lowry is older. And, Hero has been amazing as a sixth man, but like, is he really going to be a sixth man his whole career? I see him as a guy that can evolve into a starting point guard, even a starting two guard. And he's got that flash and sizzle in the post-game press conference. And he's got a rap song named after him. That's part of the reason why his cards blew up a couple of years ago. But I don't want to forget about him as a potential buy, especially on that Prizm Silver.
Yeah.
Now you can hold up the bobblehead yet again and get excited about, because our guy, let's not forget about our guy, Gary. Talk to me about Darius Garland. What do you think about this call? Because this seems super low to me, 285 for a Darius Garland 2019 Prizm Silver. What would you do with this play?
I Love Darius, as you know. I have him as number one on my buy list for the off season for August and September. I think it's going to get lower for sure by July, and I don't think there's any rational reason for it except it's the off season. And no, I love it. The thing I would say too, there's a lot of affordable Darius rookies that would be worth getting into. And here's what I've done, Paul. My budget seeking, deal making, low offering. Like I've got a stack of, I have like over 200 Darius Garland rookies that I think I could grade someday that are awesome. Like I'm not talking base. I'm talking like all kinds of variations and stuff. But look, what I want to do now is consolidate a few of those and get into like the $1,000 level, some of the Darius Garland graded Genesis or graded numbered autos, or some of those Goodwin Champions autos, because he doesn't have enough autographs out there. But no, I think if you're looking to get in on Darius Garland, we're approaching the time to do that, right? I think July and August, you're going to get some great deals. And what you said about the silver Prizm is true. It's liquid, because some of these buys, you're like, we can look at all these great deals, but I have to decide, how long am I willing to hold that card? Like if I buy a Tyler Hero silver right now, am I willing to hold it until he's a starter in 2 years or 3, when I could instead spend that money on Miles Bridges, like you said, who I could flip in November and be glad I did, right? And then buy back in January when there's not as much buzz about the new season. There's a rhythm to this. But you have to decide, how long am I willing to hold this for? That's where I look at, man, there's some players I like a lot, but I don't know if they're really going to see much increase until their team is a playoff team. Like I love Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. There's some awesome deals about him. He's eventually going to be on a winning team. If he has to force his way out in 5 years, fine. It's going to pay off. He's a great player, but I can't see myself buying and holding those cards, right? So you're right. Pay attention to draft and free agency. I mean, I even mentioned Jalen Brunson. Where is he going to be? The other thing too, when you talk about DeAndre Hunter and Darius Garland, those are guys that it took them a while to come back from injury and perform well. Like DeAndre Hunter didn't have a great season, but he had an awesome playoff series, and he showed flashes of greatness that are worth holding on to and investing in now. I wonder about Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, dude didn't have a great season scoring wise. He did great defensively, but is he an investing opportunity now? Because next season he's going to have his feet under him. They're going to know what to do with all those guards: Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Tyus Jones, and of course Ja Morant. It seemed like they always struggled when somebody would come back from injury, but next year could be the year of Jaren Jackson.
100%. And he's another guy that fits my DeAndre Hunter profile in that, like you said, coming back from injury, really not a huge sample size, still really kind of a rookie this year because of the injury. And then this was kind of going to be DeAndre Hunter's rookie year also because of his injury. And then he got injured again. And then to your point, he didn't really get his feet under him until the playoffs. So I totally agree with you on Jaren Jackson Jr. I could see him fitting into this conversation as well, 100%. And so I will, continue to have JJJ on my radar and in my rankings for that reason. So I totally agree. My next guy is Kelvin Johnson. You mentioned him the last time we talked on Hoops and Cards and on the Basketball Card Strategy Show. And I like his pricing. I want your take. So everything I've talked about already on the Prizm Silvers with all these other players apply to Kelvin Johnson. So I won't repeat myself. What I want to get your take on, though, is like, my concern is where does he fit in as a true basketball card investment? Is he a really good, scrappy young NBA player with a good career trajectory, like a Mikal Bridges? Or is he like really an investable basketball card athlete? Because DeJounte Murray seems like the guy. And how many guys can there be in San Antonio and Greg Popovich's system? Like how many, like Kawhi, like think of all the Spurs: David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard. Like, not
Mhm.
really like your cream of the crop superstar, like jump out the page. Like, I gotta have this guy's card. Maybe for a
Yeah.
diehard Spurs fan, absolutely. But for like an NBA card investor, not so sure. So talk to me about how you see Keldon Johnson at this price point and maybe just overall as a sports card investment moving forward.
Well, you're absolutely right. The Spurs don't draft players with flash and personality. They draft solid players they think they can develop. Um, Long, smooth, strong athletes like they have with Lonnie Walker, and Keldon is one of those that we didn't know much about him. I'll just say this: when I heard he was selected along with Darius Garland to be two of the alternates to practice with Team USA, I got the Garland pick because I am rooting for him. But Keldon was puzzling to me. I'm like, what do they see in him? He's, his rookie season, his second year, he wasn't so great, and so I've been not anti Kelvin Johnson for for his first 3 years, but just like I don't really get it. And at the same time, I check box scores every night for the whole NBA season, and I watch the games, not all the games, of course. I watch highlights. And Keldon, over the course of this year, emerged as instead of a guy who just kind of fits into the flow of the offense and can make threes and have the occasional 25-point night, Keldon emerged into a guy who is demanding the ball, and he's become the first option to score on offense for them. I mean, one of the reasons DeJounte Murray has so many assists, like he's a triple-double threat every night, right? He's a young Russell Westbrook kind of player. One of the reasons he has
Yeah.
so many assists is because Keldon Johnson is emerging as a scorer. And so if you would look at his last 3 months, it might change your mind on him. Now, is there something to be said for, yeah, but he's still a Spur. He's not on national TV, all those things. Absolutely. But I've been looking at like you are, at the deals on his cards and saying, there's no reason for this. Like, there's no reason that
Yeah.
I should get excited about Devin Vassell or Josh Primo or anybody else when Keldon Johnson is the guy demanding the ball. And next season, he's going to average 22 to 24 a game. He just is. So that's why I love him. But it took me a while because he's one of a few guys in that class, like Cameron Johnson, Darius Baisley, Brandon Clark, PJ Washington, some of those wings and bigs that came out, and they were big, like they were as hyped with their rookie cards when they first came out. And now it's like half of them I just throw in the dollar box, but some of them are emerging, and Keldon Johnson to me he's separated himself from that group. So I'm paying close attention
awesome.
to him.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and
like
I think that's how you all can make money, like that's how the audience can make money, is at these kinds of plays. Buying Keldon Johnson in August,
at the card show last week, Paul, I got an Origins Keldon Johnson red rookie numbered to 99. I got it for $25. And the guy next to me, as I'm buying it, he's like, that's too cheap. He didn't charge enough for that. And like, I just bought it because I knew Keldon Johnson rookie numbered to 99, Origins, like beautiful looking card. Yeah. It's a patch auto. I walked away from the table after buying it and like checked the comps. I'm like, that's $100 card right now. And some of it is just making money on the fact that some people just don't know these names yet.
Yeah.
They don't know what deals they've got in there, or they assume that like, yeah, Jaren Jackson's a flop. Well, you don't know what he's done this season or what he's going to do, right?
You haven't followed the guy. You haven't followed the details of the guy. So that's what we try to bring you here on the Basketball Card Strategy Show and Hoops and Cards. So big time guys to follow, guys to buy when you feel like you're buying at the floor at the right time. We've talked a lot about when we think that is. Keldon Johnson, Gary threw out Jaren Jackson Jr. a minute ago, and then a guy that you sent me an IG message about is Precious Achiuwa. So let's talk about him real quick, because I could go either way on him. As we're digging deep into flyer territory, out of all these guys, my mind is still has Garland and Bridges in their own stratosphere compared to the rest of these guys. But what's interesting about Precious is his pricing is so low. And if you were to somehow acquire a Prizm Silver PSA 10 of him, it would sell kind of regardless of what his situation is. Now, the last sale, according to Market Movers, which, by the way, you can get your first month for $1 if you use the promo code No Offseason.
There you go.
The last sale of the PSA 10 isn't on here because it was so long ago. But 6 months ago, or almost 7 months ago, was the last sale of a PSA 9, and it was $50. An SGC 9.5 sold this month 2 weeks ago for $8.50.
Come on.
And then raw, it's like a $5 to $10 card. So this is a Prizm Silver of a Precious rookie. And my thought is, I think I know why it's so cheap. I think it's because he's a bench player trying to play behind Scotty Barnes and Pascal and some other guys, some other wings that Toronto has. You know, even Gary Trent is his shooting guard, but he's kind of a wing. So, like, where does Precious fit in? But you're still talking about a young player going into his third year. And, you know, what's your take on Precious as a flyer, maybe compared to some of these other guys at these card prices?
I mean, a couple things about Precious's game. He would function in Toronto as more of a big than a wing because he can crash the boards, because he's a little bit taller than those other guys. And at the same time, the thing that put him back on my radar was kind of this search for the next Tyrese Maxey, like wanting to review all these rookies and read up about them. Last few months of the season, they had been encouraging Precious to shoot the three more, and he was feeling more and more comfortable. So if you talk about a guy who could be a stretch 4 and a stretch 5 in that Toronto offense as a starter as early as next season, or as a guy that can switch out when Barnes or Siakam or Chris Boucher need a break. Boucher's more of a shot blocker, but like Achiuwa has upside as a stretch 4 and a stretch 5 that, like you said, he's still super young. So I think it's a good deal. Is he on my top 5 or 10 list? No, but is he on the honorable mention? Like, it wouldn't be surprised if he's, you know, most improved player in the NBA next season. I wouldn't be surprised.
An interesting strategy about a guy like Precious could be like, why not buy 5 of his Prizm Silver rookies for $5 each if you can do it, or buy a lot of 10 of them for, you know, a few dozen bucks or whatever, and then hold them. And then when he starts to show signs that he could move from flyer to potential hero, then get them graded. That's where my mind went with like a fun, because to me that's more fun than like placing a bet on FanDuel, placing a bet on DraftKings. It's a bet, but it's more fun because it's, you know, you're getting the cards and you want to have bragging rights with your buddies and other people in the hobby and all that stuff. So everybody wants to make a play. That's what this whole thing's all about. So that's kind of cool. I'm glad you brought up Precious in our offline conversation, because I think it made for a good show topic. And actually, a couple more points on Darius Garland. Let's go back, because I know the Hoops and Cards audience does. I know Hoops and Cards audience does not get enough Darius Garland from you. So
he was wondering when you were going to talk about him again. He's ready for more. Go ahead.
Every 5 minutes, we got to bring up Darius. So I did want to bring up the fact that DeJounte Murray's Prizm Silver PSA 10 rookie is twice the price right now of Darius Garland's Prizm Silver PSA 10 rookie. So Garland is already a player that you and I like more, and his card is half the price when we talk about Prizm Silver PSA 10 rookies. Different rookie years, that could have something to do with it, but I don't know. I think Murray was a 2016, and yeah, maybe it's a pop count thing, but I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, because Darius Garland is a Upper Deck exclusive auto signer. However, you, my friend, are a I believe I'm allowed to say this on the air, a Cleveland Cavaliers season ticket holder.
Yes,
Um,
partial, not full
I'm wondering,
season. Partial.
as a former employee of the Detroit Pistons, I know that we used to hold some events and give some special perks to season ticket holders, even partial season ticket holders. And I'm wondering if you're not able to potentially swing an autograph signing of
Ooh.
some of your cards. Let's talk to your season ticket rep about that and see maybe Darius can sign a couple of those 200 rookie cards that you have, and then
Oh,
you can get them PSA
yeah.
DNA cert with a low pop count.
Would it surprise you, Paul, to know that I have already been hitting up my Cavs rep for that? That was like, he knows I'm into cards and love Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. So I'm working on him. We'll see. Maybe he's going to listen to this podcast and be like, dude, all right, finally, I'll get you. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Love your
might
thing.
when I move back to the States within the next couple of years, I'll make a trip to Akron. You and I'll hang out, and then we'll go to Quicken Loans Arena or whatever it's called, Rocket Mortgage, whatever it's called
Rocket.
now.
Yeah.
And we'll go, and I'll go with you, and I'll put on my charm so that you
You
can
got
get
some
you can
of
get a
your
Garland.
credentials spilled? You got the lanyards?
I have to see if Amanda Petrak is still the VP of public relations for the Cavs. She was when I was with the Pistons. We worked together in Detroit, and then she moved and
Nice.
she was with LeBron and all that.
Oh,
So
she got promoted.
maybe I can call in a favor. Call in a favor
Nice.
to, yeah, she got promoted in Cleveland. So, or Larisha Watley, if you're listening. Larisha Watley was a Cleveland Cavs employee. Anyway, well, we got to
Awesome.
get you a Darius. We got to get some of those cards signed because Darius
Right.
needs
Thank
to have
you.
some Panini product signed at some point.
Agreed.
Um, all right, so let's wrap up the show with just kind of hammering home the point that we want you to take a look at what flyers. Hopefully, we've got your brain working in the right direction in terms of what to do when there's a new release. Go back a year, go back another year. Find players who fit the profiles of the guys that you want to buy high into, but now buy low into different guys that kind of fit the same profile, knowing that 2 or 3 years later, you can get the guy's card that you want right now, hopefully for a fraction of the price. Play that game a little bit differently. Wait until
Yeah.
after the NBA draft, the rosters shake out before you buy more hoops cards, but get in there and be careful of player movement. You're going to have some trades. You got the summer league. We saw some jumps in prices with some summer league performances. So just be careful of those spikes. Yeah, I think that's all that's on my agenda today. I did have two other. I want to give you the floor here, Gary, before I give the actual outro to the show. So don't leave just yet, audience, because I have a couple more potential gems that I want to throw at Gary. But before I do that,
Yeah.
Gary, do you have anything else you want to throw out here on the Basketball Card Strategy Show, Episode 3?
I was going to throw out a couple of topics to kick around with you. I love your updated rankings and that you go deep, like into more than 70 players now, and you added some guys that make sense to me. I mean, Brandon Ingram, Damian Lillard. I think it's like we talked about earlier. It's important to just pay attention to what's going on in the league, and your flyers, if they're informed flyers, they could be a good flip. They could be a great long-term hold. You like Jonathan Kuminga a lot more than I do. And at the same time, when he gets minutes, like he did the other night, he plays really well. And obviously Golden State is like, you could invest in 8 players on their team. They're going up. So I was going to ask you what you think of Bones Highland, because everything we just said about the overpriced, new release, he's the guy that I'm going to have to like pause and wait to buy. Him and Cam Thomas and a couple others, but Bones is, the more I look at him, the more I like him. And there's a part of me that's like, well, it's out of my control. Jamal Murray could come back and take all his minutes. Or like in Philadelphia, when they got James Harden, Tyrese Maxey stayed on the court next to him because he was another initiator that could shoot. So you could have Bones and Jamal. I don't know. What's your take on him as a timing wise?
That's what I would do if I were Malone, the coach there in
right?
Denver. I would keep Bones on the court with Jokic and Murray, but
Yeah.
it is a concern. It is a concern for Bones, but it's now is not the my answer is now is not the time to buy Bones. I love him, but it's just not the time to buy him because
Too
he's
high.
too expensive. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's too high, and I think it's a result of the new releases, the fact that we're still, people are still seeing this year's rookies. Even though in theory it would be a good time to buy Bones as a sleeper, it's just not. And so I think timing. I think that is actually a perfect question to just. It's a case by case scenario on timing the market, but in general, this entire 2021-22 rookie class, that they're all just overpriced. Like I think
Yeah.
you should be able to get a Joshua Primo rookie ticket auto right now for like $5, but it's like
Yeah.
$25. And Bones I think is more like 75 to 150 depending on what
Yep.
you're looking at. I think Bones is like really nice contenders rookie ticket autos, like the variations and the low serial numbers are like 500, 600. I think that there's no
Amazing.
reason why a year from now in next year's buying season that those won't be. You can make an offer for $95 for the real nice ones and potentially get it for 115 or something when it was a $400. Somebody wanted $400 for it the year
Right.
before. So I could be wrong on that. I do love Bones as a player though.
Yeah.
So I do like Kuminga more than you do. I think and on my rankings, I appreciate what you're saying. Everybody, I'd love it if you check out nooffseason.com. You can find the basketball card rankings there pretty easily. But I did skew the update more towards goats at the top, like
Yeah.
active goats at the top, mixing in some guys that I think are like the top level heroes at the top. And then you've got some you really don't have many flyers until around Cade Cunningham, Cam Thomas, 16, 17. Just for the record, I categorize Giannis as a GOAT already. And I
Yeah.
categorize Jokic and Embiid as heroes because Jokic and Embiid don't have a title. They don't have as many MVP awards, if any, right now. And so, there's a lot of heroes on the list. Most of the guys are heroes in the middle. Goats at the top, heroes in the middle with a mixture of some flyers. And then you've got a lot of flyers towards the end of the list. But even you've got some anomalies like DeMar DeRozan's a hero, but he's towards the end of the list just because how much does he
Yeah.
have left? What markers
Yeah.
does he have? Those kinds of things. One other note for the listener, we're adding these player profiles. So right now, literally, my team and I have drafts. If you go to the website and you don't see the button that says investment report or the link isn't clickable to the guy to see their profile, we actually have drafts in the back end of the site that haven't been published yet. And I need to get my ass in gear, edit those
They're
drafts,
coming.
publish them, put the buttons up there. They're coming. So everybody stay tuned for that. Now, my last two things I wanted to mention real quick before we wrap up is RJ Barrett and Marvin Bagley III. So each for their own reasons. And they fall in the category of timing, right? So just one last point on timing the market.
Yeah.
Is now the time to buy one or both of these guys, in your opinion, Gary? These are the low, like a good example is that the third overall pick who plays in the largest market in the world, in the NBA world, who projects to either continue to be the face of their franchise into the future, unless they make a trade for Donovan Mitchell or somebody else, or gets traded, thus usually causing a spike in a player like his value. Is it not a time to buy RJ Barrett potentially right now or immediately following the NBA draft? He could get traded on draft night though, so this is a tricky one. What do you think of RJ? You see his prices here on the screen. They're low compared to like Bones Highland. Like you got to pay $115 to get a Bones Highland rookie ticket auto. You can get an RJ Barrett rookie ticket auto for less than $115.
Yeah, as an investment opportunity, I think sometimes we'd say is now the time to buy, and I think now is a good time to buy. I think it's part of an extended window where I think he's a relative bargain, like you said, compared to, the new release or the new rookies. But no, I love him as a player, love his upside, love what he did this past season. And I think it's gone relatively unnoticed by the card market. So, yeah, no, I'm totally with you on RJ.
The list goes on and on. What about Marvin? What about Marvin?
Well, here's where I'm at with Marvin. I'm at least asking that question. I gave up on Marvin Bagley a year ago, and now I'm asking the question again because he played so well in Detroit for those last few months, but it was Detroit. And at the same time, he's still Marvin Bagley. He's still top 3 overall talent when he was picked. He still has that potential. Doesn't matter if he had a lot of growing up to do. So did I when I was 19. Like he could potentially break out. It just depends on what Detroit wants to do with him. Like, do they see him as a movable piece because they're building around Cade and Sadiq and this draft pick? Or do they see Bagley as, hey, we could help resurrect this guy's career, just like New Orleans did for Brandon Ingram? He had to get somewhere else to take off. Julius Randle, he's not a GOAT, but he's a lot better than he was before coming to the Knicks. Sometimes guys need a change of scenery, and maybe that's what Bagley needed. So you look those deals you're posting up there, like an autographed Prizm silver. Am I reading that right? Of Bagley, the third one down there, like went for less than $40.
That's right. This is a
hey, that's
Prizm Silver Auto PSA 9, $38.77 just a couple days ago. So
yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I don't, unless the Pistons trade up. Yeah, unless the Pistons trade up from 5 to the top 3. I mean that projects to be Jaden Ivey or Sharp from Kentucky, neither of which are post players. So I think that Shaden Sharp and Jaden Ivey are not going to take Marvin Bagley's spot. The Pistons could make a move, so wait and see what happens. But I mean, if they would have landed in the lottery where they were projected to land in the top 3, I'd be less high on Marvin Bagley today. But because they're not going to be able to get Smith, Holmgren, or Banchero, I would say, greater chance Bagley has a role there. But yeah, you just never know. I mean, interesting.
You see him as the starting 4 there, or is he the starting 4 there, or is that Jeremy Grant? I see Grant as more of a 3.
That's a good call. I mean, they did so many weird things with their lineup this past year. One of the things I really wish for Detroit is that they could kind of have a consistent starting 5 throughout the year, or at least 75% of the time. I haven't run the numbers, but my guess is that they had just not even a quarter of the time would they have had like the same starting 5. But I see him as the starting 4 or 5. Like, I think he could play the 4 or the 5 as a starter in Detroit. I do think it depends on, like, do you play – what I would love to see as a fan is Cade, Jaden Ivey, Sadiq, Bagley, and Jeremy Grant as the starting 5. That would be that would be a nice, young, fun. Who cares if we win basketball games? Who cares what the strategy is? Let's get some people in the arena. Let's sell some merch. Starting 5. Let's tank again so that we can get another pick. Get Victor Wembanyama the next year. That's what we need.
Yeah, Isaiah Stewart, maybe you need an enforcer every once in a while, but if Bagley can play just a little bit of D, you're gold.
I mean, Isaiah can start if they want to bring somebody off the bench, but I'd like to see Isaiah Stewart come off the bench as a Corliss Williamson type player rather than a starter. I know Detroit loves those kind of players, but just bring him off the bench. He's a Rick Mahorn. He's not
nasty in your lineup. You still need some nasty. Yep.
He's the nasty. He's the Rick Mahorn. So
we may have some Cleveland Detroit battles in our future with all that young talent lining up.
100%. That would be amazing because, like, I mean, I love both of those teams. I love Mobley, Garland. I loved Ricky Rubio before he got hurt. Unfortunately, that was a good. But I think Cavs got some good players there. So they're on my. Other people don't believe in the Cavs like you and I do, and I don't have any reason to believe in the Cavs other than my love for Darius Garland. So.
Well, what's your take on the Celtics? Not to throw a wrench into this conversation, like they went up 3-2 last night. Is Tatum the guy? Like, does that?
I mean,
how
Tatum
you
to
address
me has
the market?
proven that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tatum to me has proven that he's the real deal. I moved him down in the most recent rankings, just a little bit, not much. He's still in the top 20 overall. He's number 5 on the basketball rankings. He's the real deal. My thing with Tatum is, well, I hate Boston, so I probably
Right.
I probably won't buy a Tatum card. I've actually, my thought process is like every single dollar that I would put into a Tatum card, I'm just going to force myself to put it into a Giannis card instead because I'm a Giannis guy. And Giannis already has the title and the 2 MVPs and hopefully more of both of those in his future. I think Tatum could be an MVP. I think Tatum could be easily. I mean, I know that that's really stupid to say that, but I think he could easily be an NBA MVP. I could eat my words on this sooner rather than later, but I don't see him winning an NBA title in his career, even though he's getting close now. As of this airing, I don't see Tatum as a winner, like a guy that's going to like put a team on his back and take them all the way to the championship. But I do think he's the real deal in terms of like an individual, like potential multiple MVP winner and like fan favorite in the, like, you know, fan ballot all-star starter every year. And obviously like one of the more exciting players in the league. So, but I'm more of a believer in terms of putting my dollars. He's number 5 because I'd rather put my dollars at this point into Luka, LeBron, Giannis, and Steph. I probably will move Ja up to the top 5. Just full transparency, everybody. If you're listening to the show, you're getting a little bit of inside information as to where my mind's at. Tatum currently is number 5, but I probably see at some point Ja and maybe even Anthony Edwards leaping Jason Tatum. And then, of course, Darius Garland always has the potential to. I think LaMelo, there's going to be a time to buy LaMelo. He's not in the top 5 for the sole reason that there's been so much LaMelo hype for the last 2 years that there will be a day when there's a time to buy LaMelo. It just hasn't happened yet. And when that happens, LaMelo is going to probably leap over Tatum. But right now, Tatum's the top 5 guy, so I got to put him there. And he's a 2017 rookie. Actually, I'll clarify. The tiebreaker between him and Ja is that he's a 2017 rookie and Ja is a 2019 rookie. It's solely a print run, pop count thing. That's it from an investment standpoint. Yeah.
Well, and Tatum could win the championship, but if he does, he needs to send Chris Middleton a get well soon card and a thank you.
Good call. That's exact. I'm glad you said that.
If they had Chris Middleton, this not even a conversation. So
I am so glad you said that unsolicited because I feel that way and I just don't want to be. I've been a buck slappy for the last several years and I don't want to come across as like a too big of a slappy. So, but I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Everybody, thanks for watching and listening to the Basketball Card Strategy Show presented by NoOffSeason.com and Hoops and Cards. If Gary decides to simulcast this on the Hoops and Cards feed, really appreciate that audience joining us here. Good to have a chance to get with all of you. Gary from Hoops and Cards, thanks so much for joining me. You are adding so much value to the NoOffSeason.com sports card content network. I really appreciate it. And everybody, if you want to sort of join the community for free, go to sportscardstrategy.com. There's a bunch of quick links there. You can subscribe on YouTube. I'd love to have you join the Facebook group. Gary's there too. And then we've got we have the opportunity to kind of chat it up with you guys online. So would really appreciate that. And check out hoopsandcards.com as well. And Hoops and Cards, wherever you get your podcast. Everybody, thanks for watching and listening and have a great day.